Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. We want to start. So please take your seat and we'll be good to go. So thank you for joining us both physically and virtually. It's a great honor to be part of this great initiative. And I'd like to start by thanking the great partners that we have here today with us. All of them will be presenting here on the stage. Special thanks goes to Monica and AWS for calling with us this great initiative, and also for Monday.com and Yuval Azulay and his great team for giving us this amazing location to build this event. Planetech is a nonprofit organization which is leading the Israeli climate tech ecosystem. We are a joint venture of the Israeli Innovation Institute, which is building innovation communities for over a decade, and Consensus Business Group. And I'd like to start by just letting you know how we look at climate tech. So, speaker is not working, but let's. This is the climate challenge map. That's 20 climate challenges that describes how we can solve climate change. And thanks to this initiative, we were able to come up with 2 new challenges for this map. The first one, carbon management, risk and finance. And the second one, sustainable digital infrastructure. And today we'll meet 8 startups. 4 of them are dealing with the first challenge and 4 of them are dealing with the second one. And I think both of these challenges describes real things that we're trying to address with climate innovation. Next thing is this. Or not. So probably you see it a little bit blurry, but what you see here is Planetech World, which is our climate tech conference. This is taking place in September. Okay, are you ready? Great, I guess you're ready. So Planetech World 2022 is taking place on September 21st. 1,500 people, 100 startups, top climate tech VCs, top corporates here in Israel, 6 weeks before COP27. Tickets are available since today, so make sure to buy early bird tickets. There's only 150 tickets in early bird prices. I'd like to move on to the first piece of this event. So we're starting with a fireside chat with the Climate Pledge Fund, Nick Ellis, and Persephone with Wolfgang, together with Monica from AWS, and then we move to the startup pitches. So Monica, jump in. Over there. So first of all, Monica, what a great pleasure to be here together after we start discussing this on November. So long one. Okay, we'll do with one. Okay, so
it's enough that you came and then it's suddenly started working. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think both of us are quite excited about this because we imagined this over 6 months ago, and with the great help of the amazing partners that we've gathered, now we have this great event. So maybe we can just get started.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. The first time we talked about this event, we didn't know how many partners, how many startups are there, how many, audience we'll have. So thank you so much for coming. It's amazing that you're here. Let's dive into the panel. We have 2 panelists today.
Yeah, and maybe we can start off by just introducing yourselves and the organizations that you're representing. Let's start with Nick and then move on to Will. So Nick, the stage is yours.
Certainly. Good morning, all from California. Thank you so much first for hosting me and having us here today. My name is Nick Ellis. I'm with the Climate Pledge Fund at Amazon, and I'm based out of California, working with our portfolio success team, which essentially is the part of the Climate Pledge Fund that works with the startups that we invest in as we try and commercialize their technologies and make them more advantageous to Amazon. So I'll leave it at that and look forward to having a little more discussion here shortly.
Perfect. Will?
Yeah, good morning from, or good afternoon, depending on where you are, from London. That's where I'm based, and I'm here representing Persephone. I lead corporate development here, so we work on things like anything inorganic to accelerate the company's mission, whether that's M&A, investment, partnerships, and other growth opportunities. Persephone, for those of you who are not familiar, we are still a startup, and so the name might be new to you. We're a carbon accounting and management platform that helps companies calculate, manage, and report their carbon footprint in the most accurate, transparent, and scalable manner. And happy to dive more into that later, but we believe that having a accurate and sort of universally agreed upon carbon footprint for every company is like a starting point for any kind of commitments to decarbonization we make as an industry and a society.
Yeah, and most mentioning the Climate Pledge Fund, the $2 billion fund for climate technologies, one of the largest in the world, Persephone, probably the leading digital climate startup. And the fact that you're here is amazing. So yeah, thank you for being here.
And we'll dive into what Persephone does a bit later. Before that, Nick, as an investor, what are you looking for in a company, especially in the digital infrastructure space and the sustainable digital infrastructure? How do you evaluate the right fit?
Certainly. So in many ways, we're similar to most of the venture capital firms that folks are probably already familiar with themselves, with one big caveat. So much like the other venture capital firms, we look for an exceptional team, differentiated technology, a large market opportunity, but we have one extra constraint at the Climate Pledge Fund that makes it especially difficult to find startups that meet our high bar, and that is that they need to have direct applicability to Amazon's operations. So in the space of digital tools in particular, finding early stage startups that can operate at the scale and complexity of Amazon and our infrastructure is oftentimes a very high bar to clear. So we're often looking for those types of startups that are slightly more mature. We typically put ourselves right at the Series A stage or A+, if you want to think of it that way, although we have invested earlier stage. And we have a global remit. I think one of the more interesting pieces about this role and this job is seeing how global this innovation is and happening in Israel, in Europe, in the Far East, et cetera. And so for us, we're basically scouring every place on the planet to look for some of the best digital startups out there and making sure that they can really help address our decarbonization priorities as quickly as possible inside Amazon.
Okay, so following up on this point, one of the biggest challenges for Amazon is to decarbonize its digital infrastructure, and most dominantly, I would say, data centers. What are the things that you are looking in specifically within digital infrastructure and data centers? Are you looking at this as a strategic investment opportunity for you, as it's one of your most dominant greenhouse gas emissions in the company?
Absolutely, we are. Just like you mentioned, it's one of the areas of fastest growth for our carbon footprint, primarily because of the growth of the business. Yep. And data centers touch on two important areas for the Climate Pledge Fund. The first is building technology, and the second is energy storage, transmission, utilization. Both of those challenges are front and center when we look at our data centers and the growth that they're experiencing. And for us, there's both a hardware and a software component to that equation. Certainly the hardware component is finding cleaner sources of energy, finding more efficient building materials when we're standing up these large data centers. But the software piece of the puzzle is really the long-term opportunity, where we can optimize the design, the utilization, and the efficiency of those buildings over time with really good tools that help us better manage, for example, our battery fleets internally or our HVAC systems. So much of that is now software driven and certainly an area of high priority for us.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. And Will, back to you. What do you think are the success factors for you as a company for your success so far? And maybe is it connected to the type of customer you're serving? If you can say a couple of words about, where does the success come from? You are an early company in this space, so share with us your secrets.
Sure, yeah, and I'm not sure it's that secretive, but I do think we have a bit of a unique founding story that plays into any of the success we've seen to date. So Our founders, they actually all came from Chesapeake Energy. So it is a little bit perhaps different from, the typical tech or fintech or climate tech founders, but they were on the essentially, the user side and really experienced a deeply personally felt need for the lack of technological solutions that could help a company like Chesapeake decarbonize, or before even decarbonizing, just getting a handle on their carbon footprint. So that's kind of, what birthed the idea in the first place. That's where the founding team met each other. And then through, a bunch of ideation and working together and talking to potential funders, this is what, gave Persephone its roots. And then so from day one, we have, stuck very close to all the sort of learnings that, history gave us in terms of what companies really need, especially companies kind of operating in the in the physical world. I know, there are a bunch of different carbon accounting and management solutions out there these days. And one thing that we take pride in is being able to serve companies that have a real world footprint, because as Nick alluded to, I think those are some of the most difficult parts to measure and then manage. In terms of, I think you were asking about customer or our what makes it unique. One thing that we also did was kind of looking at the market and understanding that a lot of the buying behavior, especially for the segment of the market that we're trying to serve, which is like this more enterprise segment, the larger public companies, a lot of the buying behavior was driven by regulations. And also a lot of that regulations was coming from financial regulators. So, the SEC in the US, the FCA here in the UK, the FSA in Japan. And so we really targeted companies that would be subject to those regulations first, in which case turned out to be a lot of financial services companies, asset managers, private equity, private debt firms. And then, working with them, then getting into their portfolio companies, because in order to measure, their holistic scope 3 footprint, they would also need to start capturing the footprint of their portfolio companies. So that's kind of been one of our unique, I would say, go-to-market strategies.
And in terms of, you're now in a growth stage, speaking with a lot of customers, what are the challenges that you're experiencing? Are you still needing to educate your customers, or is it more they're coming to you looking for solutions? Where is this in this balance of educating versus getting a lot of leads?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we're definitely in this kind of transition phase. So we are, there's a ton more awareness and, a ton more pressure from regulators, from the public, from suppliers, customers, employees. So we're getting a lot of, CEOs, CFOs coming to us and saying, hey, we understand that this is really happening and we need to, get our act together. But
that's good news. Good news.
That is good news. But then to your point about education, I think beyond that initial realization or acknowledgement, many of these companies, these are like large physical companies, don't have much of an answer beyond that. And that's why they're coming to us and coming to our, peers for help. And they really do need a lot of help.
So they basically tell you we need carbon accounting and now do this magic for us.
Yes, exactly. And that's part, and you were asking about the challenge, and honestly, that is part of the challenge, is you have to somehow, break the news to them that, hey, we are here to help. We have a lot of, technology and expertise that can help you. But unfortunately, certainly as of today, there is no like one big magic button that you press and then, in a week, you suddenly have like your entire carbon footprint calculated across, the 3 scopes. And that's disappointing to some customers.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. So actually, we have an interesting insight into how to get your customers. Definitely, as in any other space, just go with the must, right? Must to have and not nice to have. And when your customer needs it and needs it now, then there's an opportunity there. So Nick, what advice can you give to early stage startups in this space in regards to go-to-market? Do you see any other models? Do you see that this is really what the startups should be focusing on, just finding this pain point that is big enough for a company to actually invest in early stage startup relationship? What do you think about that?
I certainly think you need to focus on the pain point for the customers and solve a real problem. That I would say has become paramount for many of the customers out there because they've been sold snake oil before by startup founders from many different generations. And I think the skepticism on a lot of the climate solutions is probably rightly high. There's a high bar in terms of credibility. There's a high bar in terms of delivering on the promise that we actually make to our customers out there if you're a startup founder. And then to Will's point, there's a lot of changing complexity in how the markets and the regulators and these corporations are trying to understand these solutions and get it right. And so finding a really clear pain point that you can identify and deliver a solution on is key. I would say to the question of go to market, I think there's really two dominant strategies that I've seen be successful out there. There's certainly the direct sales model, in which you walk in, knock on the front door, introduce yourself, and hopefully win the business on the merits of what you can deliver for that company. Typically, that would be demonstrated through a short pilot, followed by a larger proof of concept or a scaled pilot before you really get a multi-year enterprise contract that could run you out 3, 4, 5 years and deliver on that. I think that's successful for some startups that really hit the nail on the head to start. I think for many other startups, particularly in the digital services space, it sometimes helps to sell through partners. And so in many ways, some of these big corporations will look to some of the big 4 accounting firms, for example, the Accentures of the world, and say, hey, can you recommend a vendor into us that can solve this problem? And I would just encourage founders early on to think about diversifying their sales strategy or their go-to-market strategy so that you do the bulk of your time spent on direct sales and really engaging with customers and getting direct feedback, but allow some time to go out there and connect with key channel partners, engage them, hopefully get on their short list of vendors, and be one of those startups that can be recommended incredibly to those big enterprises when you're not in the room. And I think that more balanced approach to sales, especially when we're dealing with long enterprise sales cycles, is probably the better recipe for success instead of putting all your eggs in one basket.
Hey, very interesting observation. Thank you for that. So since we have you on this panel, let's take this opportunity to zoom out a little bit and just take your opinion about climate tech in general and what gets you excited in climate tech and what are the type of things that you're seeing that are growing now and you'll probably be interested to invest in.
Certainly. So there's a lot to be excited about today. I would say the climate tech space, I've been watching this space and participating for over 15 years at this point in time. The last couple of years inside the fund, I think has really been an inflection point in this market. And I would say the market as a whole right now is going through a reset and a bit of a dislocation. So one observation I would have is the larger public market downturn right now has forced a flight to quality for investors, where they're looking for really high quality assets and startups that they can credibly invest their dollars in that will weather this downturn that many of us are anticipating. I would say for the founders out there, the message is make sure you can demonstrate that you're solving a real customer problem, that you have reference accounts, that you have a sustainable, profitable business model. And I think that will ensure that you can find success through this difficult market time. In terms of specific sectors that I think are most exciting, it's a hard question to answer because I feel like everywhere you turn, you see innovations that really make you lean back and think differently about problems. And I'll give you 2 examples here quickly that I was not familiar with, but have learned quite a bit through my work at the fund. The first is a small organization we invested in out in California called Hippo Harvest. This is in a space called controlled environmental agriculture, which deals with growing crops sustainably and delivering them at a lower price point into major grocery stores. This is not an area many people would focus on, especially if you're looking at Amazon. They would think, oh, that's a small amount of your footprint. Seems like more of a distraction than an opportunity. But I would just observe our food supply chain, and we see this playing out in real time right now in Ukraine, has become incredibly unstable. Inflationary pressures have made it very difficult to get food on the table for a lot of people, and it's become a really kitchen table issue all around the world. And so I think that's one area where many investors probably looked past the simplicity of the space, but now are realizing the importance of it and coming back and revisiting some of these different approaches to see how can we really solve this table stakes issue that affects a lot of individuals out there every day. The other area I would flag up is one that I've seen through another startup we work with called Amegy. Amegy is a New York-based startup. They are creating an ammonia-powered zero-emission powertrain that can be used in heavy-duty transport applications. So think big tractors, big ocean container ships, airplanes, instances like this. And again, when you look at the carbon footprint of these machines, we certainly know they are large, but I think this is an area where there's been a second generation or a renaissance in technological innovation that has made a lot of the first generation solutions that maybe just scrubbed the emissions off the container ship or off the airplane to now becoming truly zero or even carbon negative. And to me, this is just a step change forward in terms of the opportunity that we can see to abate a very large sector of emissions much more quickly than I think many folks thought even 3 and 5 years ago. So certainly for me, those are two areas I'd love to hear about, learn about. If there's folks in the room out there pushing on those areas, I would love to hear from you as well. And I could talk for days, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you very much. So right now, both of you, if you want to answer, there is this ongoing debate between, about the hardware versus software in the climate tech. And especially, we know that in order to make a real change, that decarbonization and the hardware part is very important, but very capital intensive. On the other hand, the software is more interesting for investors naturally, but we probably need both. Do you have thoughts about that? How do you see this space? Do you see any changes in the recent couple of years? Where are we going with this, ongoing debate between hardware versus software, and VCs naturally going for software, but hardware kind of having to be inside of this debate as well?
I'm happy to offer a quick answer, and then we'll certainly encourage you to weigh in. My observation would be the VC ecosystem has matured substantially in the last few years. And whereas before many VCs might play both in the software and the hardware space, you're increasingly seeing specialization. And so depending upon the type of startup you're building, I would just be conscious of the venture capitalists that you're approaching and making sure they're tightly aligned with your thesis. So if it's software, go look for those software investors. If it's hardware, potentially come to someone like the Climate Pledge Fund that takes a really long-term view of our investment and has sufficient capital to support you over a decades-long push. But those are almost two different investment vehicles at this point in time that we're seeing play out. So again, I think the headline is the market has evolved, matured, differentiated more so than it was a few years ago. And the onus is really on founders now to read those tea leaves clearly and make sure they're approaching the right investors with the right pitch instead of a less differentiated pitch I think they could get away with a few years ago.
Great. Will, do you have any thoughts?
I think that's I agree in general, and I think my answer here is pretty boring, but that both are definitely required. And as Nick said, you have different investors out there with different risk profiles and time horizons. You just have to know who to go talk to. From our perspective, we are very singularly focused on building a software platform, and not even within software there are many things you can do within climate and ESG, and we are just focusing on the sort of core carbon accounting and management piece of it. One of the things that we believe as a company is that this space is so new. There's such a huge amount of opportunity, but also enormous challenges. Just getting like sort of the very basics right, getting the foundation right is really important. And capital is scarce, management attention is scarce, and we just want to focus on what we do best and be the best at doing that. And we're happy to leave the many adjacencies and other super important pieces of addressing the climate challenge to our peers and partners and investors and others out there.
Okay, so thank you, Will. I think we're out of time, so we will need to skip several questions. I would like to thank both of you for joining us virtually. Hope to see both of you on September 21st. And again, thank you, Monica. And I think we can move on to the second part of the event.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye-bye.
So I'd like to invite Citi to present the first startup, and let's hear both the partners, the great partners that we have today, and the companies. So, okay.
Hi, I'm Melanie Ohana. So I work at Citi. I'm in charge of, I'm part of the external innovation team. Citi has been one of the first banks setting up an innovation lab and an accelerator in Israel back in 2013, capitalizing on this amazing network. We're building now 2 programs. So the accelerator that's focusing on early stage companies, and a launchpad program, which focuses on companies with a product that we can work with, and setting this at a global stage across Citi businesses. We're super excited to be here today because ESG is a big topic for us. We've actually set some of the most ambitious goals of net zero carbon emissions in the industry. So Jane Fraser, our CEO, announced back in March 21 when she took office that Citi would be net zero, reaching net zero emissions by 2050. And a year later, we announced that our interim goals would be cutting down in the energy sector financing by 29%, which is one of the most ambitious goals in our industry. Now we have to make it happen, and that's when the fun begins. So we're very excited to meet companies that can help us achieve those goals, not only as we operate as a company, like any company, but as we finance, carbon emission businesses that substantially need to change. So without more ado, I'd love to introduce Viridian, who is super relevant for this space. And
hello. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, so here we are. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. My name is Ori Ofek, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Viridian Analytics. We are a big data analytics. We are a big data analytics startup battling climate change through big data and AI. So the question is, how can we battle climate change with data? And what we are doing is we're building information solutions for the financial sector in order to drive it forward and prepare it for the new climate economy. But what does it really mean? Well, for example, let's look at the energy sector, a multi-trillion-dollar industry responsible for a major part of the global greenhouse gas emissions on a global scale. They're playing a key role in the climate crisis, but also in the solution. This industry is undergoing a tremendous transformation process as stakeholders around the world are pushing hard on this industry to transform and to transition from old style carbon intense production technologies into renewables, to move away from coal and fossil fuel based energy production technologies. This strong pushback or push actually creates very big threats and risks, but also opportunities for all shareholders in the industry. Well, on the one hand, there are good opportunities and there are very good viable business models for new development projects and transition projects to change existing facilities into renewable energy and to clean energy sources. On the other hand, holding on to coal-based and fossil fuel-based carbon-intense production poses real threats for shareholders and real business problems. These are multi-billion dollars worth of investments and opportunities, and nowadays over $800 billion are invested worldwide in transition projects and new development projects. But additional $2 trillion are waiting on the sidelines and are waiting to jump in. What are they waiting for? So there is a setback here, and there is a setback. That is a major part of it is resulting from the lack of data. These type of new business models require a new type of data, not the old style financial data alone, but also new paradigms for assessing and understanding the actual climate and environmental risks and opportunities in this new, new economy. They are actually looking for information that is highly scattered, that is hard to obtain, and that does not exist in the traditional information sources. Traditional information solutions do not cover these domains. For example, in order to assess the feasibility of such transition projects, new data points must be taken into consideration. For example, environmental performance, environmental violations, emerging regulations, emerging incentive plans, the emerging new technologies, more and more and more. All these, as I mentioned before, are very hard to obtain. Today, there are over 3,000 facilities in the US alone, energy facilities in the US alone. And just think about the investors and the analysts trying to navigate all of these, driving away from opportunity, from risky investments, and identifying the most interesting opportunities. Okay. Well, the information out there, the metrics that I mentioned are somewhere, but they're not where we're used to looking. In the Dataverse, everything is somewhere, but as I mentioned, analysts have a hard time obtaining this information with little success. Well, until today, Viridian is building the most comprehensive information solution for investment institutions and analysts, specifically designed for the climate economy. We are collecting millions of data points from thousands of data sources from around the world using big data and AI technologies and unique intelligence methodologies from the Israeli intelligence community. We're assisting investors and analysts identify hidden risks and hidden opportunities throughout the investment life cycle, from asset scouting through prioritization and screening processes, all the way to the due diligence and the investment itself, and also in the operation state, all the way to exit. We're doing that while keeping in mind all the time and monitoring this changing business ecosystem for additional climate-related and environmental-related metrics. But this does not only apply to energy. Obviously, all sectors today are considering climate and environmental metrics in their investment processes, and understanding that there are real needs and real risks and real opportunities within these new metrics. We are building a comprehensive information solution in order to shift the world economy towards the climate era. We are doing that. We are doing that, and as we mentioned, as we see it, the economy drives the world. Data is driving the economy. So we are now starting to drive the data. And regarding the 2,000 facilities I mentioned before, well, currently we have them all, and we have tens of thousands more in our system. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here and see you all here, right? Oriel, seeing a vision coming together. Amazing. My name is Cecile Belilius. I'm the head of impact and sustainability for Pitango Venture Capital. Pitango is one of Israel's largest and oldest venture capital fund. We have approximately about $3 billion under management and invest across all assets from early stage to growth to health tech. And we do this across all kinds of domains. And the interesting thing that you need to know about Pitango, at least as far as I'm concerned, is that except for the amazing returns we provide our investors, we actually decided to integrate the world of ESG, impact and sustainability into our mainstream operations. Now, Pitango is a pure play legacy venture capital fund. We only invest to maximize profits. So why the ESG and why the impact? So 2.5 years ago, I joined Pitango with the idea of really integrating the world of ESG into everything we do at Pitango. That starts from how we screen companies, how we choose them, how we invest in them, what we expect from them, how we teach them to become ESG compliant or ESG friendly, and think about the impact of their products. I think Bitango is one of the first, probably the first VC, mainstream VC in the world to do that. That is extremely important. The other thing that is important is that we are ecosystem builders. We are thinking wide. We're thinking about bringing everyone together. And also this is why we're here today. The idea of investing in climate solutions, the idea of investing in ESG, the idea of thinking through this social and environmental lens into everything we do without relinquishing on our maximizing our profits. This is the vision that we come together with. And I think as an ecosystem builder, it's really important to have everyone on the same page. Create these ecosystems, have entrepreneurs and investors and all the ecosystem builders around us really collaborate to get to the mission that we're trying to achieve. And at the end of the day, we're really trying to build a world that we all want to live in, right? And raise our children in. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy you're here. I hope you'll be here with us in September too, in the bigger venue. And I'm really happy to introduce Enmotion as the next pitch presentation.
Hi, my name is Ilya. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Enmotion. I will try during 5 minutes to take you to the world of weather forecasting, climate forecasting. So this is our reality in numbers, okay? So beyond 9-10 days, it's like 50-50 synoptic forecasts, your applications. What can you do with this kind of forecast? What kind of decisions you make? What is the value of this kind of forecast? Do you have enough time? Really important decisions? I don't think so. How I know this one is true? Months of planning. They even been canceled the same day. No alerts, no forecasts, nothing. Curious guy with very expensive bicycles. But you can say this guy is actually saved on forecast, okay? No risk management analytics around there. These guys make incredible things. Best minds with best science around them, like NASA and so on. And the 10 days mission of second astronaut in the space, Israeli astronaut, been delayed by a week because of weather conditions. So we cannot plan, they couldn't plan a mission of 10 days ahead because there is no forecasts. It's not a matter of money. It's not a matter of number of science around it, because there is no. So we had enough time to read it. I can see it forever. Really genius. Okay, so this is actually the reasons we one day decided to invent new kind of climate model from scratch. And Enmotion born on end of 2016. We are bootstrapped, we have revenues, and we supply climate intelligence analytics. What is actually very unique about it, it's not only how it will impact you, but also it's based on our own climate model from scratch. We're not here. The synoptic market is very, very small, less than 3 billion. Okay, with all the bases about climate importance and disasters of hundreds of billions, the private market of weather forecast is ridiculously small. We can be here technologically, but we do not want to be here. It's not interesting. There is no money there. As a curious, the Mystic services market in the United States only is $2 billion. People want to know what is the future, but they don't want to pay for it. So we are here. We supply bankable forecast. What does it mean? Long enough, precise enough, no updates. So you can actually take our forecast and plan based on it. Make really important decisions for you. What is the size of this market? We do not know. According to some researchers, better climate model is like 10 to 20 billion market value. I think it's somewhere there. I have another gun. Okay, so imagine you could forecast hurricanes months ahead for specific date, specific location, and specific power. Hurricane Ida, Hurricane Laura been forecasted by us 2 months ahead. There is already next one, between 8 to 10 September, somewhere between Texas to Florida, major hurricane, level 4-5. Damage, something like that. You could actually understand how will the summer will look like in Europe, for example, months ahead. Or you could forecast heat waves months ahead, and what will be the impact on energy consumptions months ahead for specific area. Floods forecasting months ahead for specific location. Forecasts for agriculture months ahead, like frosts, for example. Wind forecasting. Urban areas forecasting up to the specific street or block. Ischemic stroke forecasting based on microclimate conditions for specific location. Stock market based on analysis of winter conditions in the United States 2021 and its impact on specific products produced or sold by specific companies. The good news, it works. It's our day-by-day life. We do it all the time. So if you are interested to know how it works technologically, I will explain you later because it will take much more than 5 minutes, okay?
Hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Ohad Maman, and I'm an investment principal. What? No? Okay. And I'm an investment principal at Future Energy Ventures based in Tel Aviv. I lead our Israeli office, heading our, basically responsible for our Israeli portfolio and also new investment opportunities, of course. So Future Energy Ventures is the venture capital and collaboration platform of E.ON, one of Europe's largest operators of energy networks and energy-related infrastructure. E.ON has 72,000 employees, serving 51 million customers in over 30 countries in Europe. And E.ON's strategy is based on 3 pillars. It's growth, sustainability, and digitalization. So I think it's very much aligned with the vision behind today's event. Our fund is essentially the corporate VC of E.ON. We look for digital, asset-light, scalable solutions, and we invest in Series A and B rounds. Our focus areas are the future of energy, future of cities, and future technologies that support the energy transition and have a decarbonization impact. In addition, being a corporate VC, in addition to providing funding, we work closely with the E.ON innovation teams, trying to promote collaborations between our portfolio companies and the business units. Anything from initial proof of concept projects, pilots, but also commercial collaborations. Next, I'd like to present Plan A. I think it's virtual, right? So floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just getting sorted here. 1 second. I assume everyone can see my screen. If there's a voice, I can't see any faces, but if someone can confirm that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you, first of all, to Gal and Aviva and the rest of the team for putting this on. So far, it's been a great event. We're we feel very privileged and happy to be here in attendance, and we apologize for not being able to be there in person. It's a little bit short notice on our end, but yeah, hopefully I can impressed nonetheless. So I'm here today to talk about Plan A. I was told that I do have a hard 5 minutes, so we're not going to get into our platform or a demo of our platform in any way, shape, or form, just because of time restrictions, but hopefully I can convey what our values are and our approach to solving challenges for our clients is, and hopefully, we can open a conversation thereafter. So generally, and it's a very good thing that Will and Nick opened the event with their panel. So we kind of are in the same space as Persephone, dealing with carbon accounting and the whole decarbonization journey thereafter and broader ESG reporting metrics. So you have a baseline for that, which is great. And then I'm really glad that Nick mentioned that in order for any of our businesses in this space to succeed, we have to be solving challenges for our customers. And what we've realized over the last 5 years of serving our customers is that the core challenges, and these might resonate with some of you in the audience, are that there are, of course, dynamic regulatory landscapes that are ever evolving. We mentioned Japan, we mentioned the SEC. Of course, Europe is one of the leading places for, all of these regulations to commence, and often setting the bar for the rest of the world. But what happens after you have to report? Otherwise, there are penalties. Usually, we find that companies or our customers, our clients, have scattered data. It's all over the place. They're not collecting the right data, or they have too much data in their ERP systems and they don't know what to do with it. So that becomes a really difficult challenge to solve. And that's why with Plan A, we really do a lot of hand holding and to ensure that, there's you're never left out to dry. And we've heard from numerous clients who have experimented with a whole bunch of other companies that, often they're given a one-off solution and they're not given the support that they need in order to begin the journey. And even in some cases, people who are much farther along their journeys in years 3 or 4 or 5 or even 10, they still need that support. So no matter where you might be, it's something that we're prepared to deal with and support you with, of course. The third one here is pressure from various stakeholders. We know that it's not just external, but internal. We have a number of employees, especially Gen Z. I think the research recently points to Gen Z's #1 ranking criteria when choosing a new employer is whether or not they take ESG seriously and if they're doing anything about that. So we're finding that these kind of 4 challenges are ones that we get to solve on a daily basis. And again, not being a one-off solution, we are a software, we have a platform to initially assess what your carbon emissions are today, but it's not about that. It's about decarbonizing your operations in the right way so that we're not just compensating or offsetting or overcompensating or over-offsetting, just so we can get some kind of badge That's not what we do. We really care about helping your business find appropriate ways to decarbonize that resonate with your, your triple bottom line. And that's what we're trying to do on a day-to-day for everyone that we work with. And the way that we kind of embark on that journey with you is we'll do a scope 1, 2, 3 analysis. You'll get a baseline number, and then you'll be able to kind of select automatically generated decarbonization strategies. These are industry specific. They are, of course, it's AI driven. So there's, things that are relevant and kind of quick wins that you can take, but it's not about the quick win. Honestly and truthfully, we're here about, the much more challenging topics and ways to decarbonize. And that's where our customer success team comes in. And we have an entire team of climate scientists that we work with day to day. And you'll see that on the next slide. But effectively, we're in it for the long haul. We're in it to hold hands, and we're here to support you through every step of the way. From a kind of credibility standpoint, we were one of the early companies in the software space, founded in 2017. We were the first, or one of the first, to get TÜV certified, which means that our methodologies are auditable. So whatever outputs we spit out in terms of regulatory risk or whatever other risks you might be thinking about, the outputs are verifiable. So if you go with PwC or whomever, they'll look at your numbers and say that, okay, this was done properly, and you won't be a victim of greenwashing or the bad PR that comes with that. But I mentioned earlier that we do have a huge team of scientists, full-time scientists, that are contributing to the methodologies that are, of course, in accordance with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. But beyond that, I think what's more important is that we're a company that walks the talk. And last year, late November, we were given B Corp status. So many of you might know what that means or what that entails, but it's really a company that is doing things the right way for the right reasons. And that's why I'm part of Plan A, to be honest. But you'll see on the right-hand side of that circle, there's a number of the customers that we work with. Some of them are VCs, of course. We help them and their portfolio companies. We structure things in very creative commercial ways if necessary, but generally speaking, we go direct. We work with portfolios. We have B2B2B options for much larger entities as well. And I welcome any opportunity to have a conversation, ask any questions. If you want to see a demo, I'd be happy to do that. If you want to scan the QR code right now, you can pull out your phones. That'll bring you to the Plan A homepage. If you're interested in finding out more, just fill out the form super quickly. You can mention that we were at the event together. Or alternatively, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, I'm pretty easy to find. Daniel Wong, Plan A should pop up pretty quickly. Send a note with whatever you want, and we'll be able to connect and take it from there. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
היי לכולם, אני שניז, sorry, I forgot it's in English. I was like, hi everyone, I'm Shanice Zanescu. I'm a climate tech investor and also a very, very proud co-founder of Planetech. So indeed, like Cecile mentioned, it's really exciting and humbling. Every time we have one of these events, and so many people come, and it's so much more than just the events. We see a growing interest and funding flowing into this companies in which we define climate tech. I'm also an advisor to Consensus Business Group, which is a UK-based group with a portfolio of over $1 billion of investments here in Israel. We invest directly in companies, startups, obviously in the field of climate tech and also in health, but I'm obviously focusing on that area, and also in VCs. So anything else? No, I think that's it. Everything has been said, and I'm happy to invite Repath, which will join us also virtually.
Hello, everyone. Manishma. I'm Lisa. I actually have been in Israel just last week, and I was very sad that I needed to return before this event and not do it in live. But I had another speech in Munich. So this is how it goes. Anyways, I hope you see my screen. and everything works?
No,
All right.
no.
Okay. Share. Now? All right, perfect. Yes, welcome. So my clock is already running. I have just a couple of minutes. And actually what is very interesting, I know Plan A, and we kind of start where Plan A ends. So our topic is climate adaptation. And we have a very big purpose, and we empower humanity to reach a sustainable climate adapted future for our planet. And why is that? We today have a lot of challenges, and one is that today we're heading into the biggest transformation of economy. The world gets more and more complicated. You feel it every day. The climate crisis is increasing. I don't need to tell you about it, and sustainable growth is threatened. So now, why do you think, or what do you think is the biggest risk on Earth? It's a rhetorical question because you cannot really answer, but the biggest risk on Earth is actually climate action failure and extreme weather events. And this is what Repath is addressing. Now, unfortunately, the more frequent and intense events that have been, well, done by not taking care well of our planet, they will increase. Yeah, so climate protection is super important and necessary, yes, but we need to deal and manage the irreversible damage that has been done to our planet, and the extreme weather events such as flooding, storms, heat waves. You see it in the news every day. They will get more and more. Now, the question is, why is sustainable growth threatened? We believe and we know sustainable growth for organizations is threatened if they do not identify these upcoming physical climate risks for their locations, if they do not understand the vulnerability of their assets, of the overall system, of the supply chain or infrastructure network or office locations, whatever it is that is kind of bound to a specific location. And last but not least, of course, we don't want to project the doomsday. You can adapt, right? There are mitigation, adaptation measures to change and minimize these risks. Yeah, and we believe you have a responsibility, you know, for our employees to be safe, for avoiding disruptions, and for your infrastructure. Now, I'm sure you know the Sustainable Development Goals. This is what we're playing into. Take urgent action and combat the climate change and its impact. And the question is, are you as a company adapting, or as an investor or as an individual? And we believe you should. Now, we also say, you might think, yeah, well, we can do that later. No, climate action needs to start being happening now. And why is that? Already next year, already in the next weeks, these events can happen. And if they hit companies without notice, this sustainable growth is threatened, as I said before. So our main guiding question is, how can organizations manage climate adaptation and secure future growth? We have developed a solution, or we are developing a solution that focuses really on climate adaptation management. Systematic adaptation management. So we have global climate data and regional climate data. We use the ensemble approach. So we have an intelligent climate data lake that is calculated by our scientists, not as big yet as Plan A, but we also have scientists that focus on developing and calculating the risks specifically for locations and networks. We rate those risks, we aggregate the information, and we make it usable and understandable for everyone, not just for scientists. And with our platform, you can understand and see, identify where are those. And soon, not yet, but soon we will automatically, throughout the platform, give climate adaptation measures to our customers, identify the value at risk, the necessary investment, the return of investment, give certificates and stamps that companies are climate resilient, and therefore get closer to our purpose. Our customers today are already worthwhile mentioning. So Siemens is a name for you all. E.ON as an energy network operator in Europe, the biggest, and Hapag-Lloyd. The time is up and I am ready. Maybe you can still, if you're interested, make a picture of the slide or scan my QR code. I would love to speak to you, and our pre-seed round is still open for a short while. If anyone is interested, approach me. And thank you so much for the chance to pitch here. Yeah.
Okay. Hey everyone. Uriel, first of all, and to the entire team, super impressive. People from all over the world presenting here. It's like the Eurovision, and I will be presenting someone from France, which is pretty awesome. So my name is Roy Fuhrman, and I'm the Managing Director at Doral Energy Tech Ventures. We are the corporate innovation and the investment arm of Doral Group. To those of you who don't know, Doral Energy is a publicly traded company. We are a global renewable energy developers. So which means we are developing renewable energy assets and projects. So we see ourselves as enablers to this entire global ambitions to reduce carbon footprint, either selling green electricity to data centers or to even to recycle some of this electronic waste that these data centers produces. We have a global portfolio of companies from Israel, from Germany, and also from the US, collaborate with top tier VCs and CVCs. And I guess that being here is our privilege, because I think that the change needs to be done from the local ecosystem and entrepreneurs that try to tackle challenges within the climate space, but also for investors like VCs and CVCs to work together, private equities to work together as a global effort, and to serve the companies as a force multiplier to tackle these changes. I fully agree that we don't have that much of time, and my time is also ended. So without any further ado, and bonsoir to France, I will I'm happy to introduce you to Lython. So good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, and a very good evening to everybody. I'm very happy to present you who is Lython and what we do. My name is Etienne. I'm based in Montpellier together with the team. Montpellier is in southwest of France. Basically, the company is 2 years old, and we believe that in the digital world, there are a lot of waste, and there is a big opportunity to make waste management and better use the digital world. So we believe that there is a strong opportunity by being proactive in this domain. So basically, if I look at who is Lython in a nutshell, we have a mission, which is basically to be able to do a proactive calibration of a digital infrastructure. And this by using what we call predicted usage, how people are using an infrastructure. And when I talk about an infrastructure, I talk about, the IT, the data centers, the networks, and all the infrastructures that are between your laptop, your desktop, your smartphones, and actually an application. So basically, what we do is very simple. Through our technology, we can quantify the usage, how people, our organization, it could be a site, it could be an office, it could be an organization, a region, how basically, they are using this infrastructure, qualifying the usage. The second is we anticipate what will be the usage in the next hour, in the next day. We have a capacity to understand how many people will be doing Zoom Office 365 or run an ERP in the next hour, do that application and do this. And from this information that we anticipate, basically, what we aim at doing is calibrating the infrastructure so that we could adjust, because there will be, we anticipate a problem and we want to actually make sure that the performance will be the best so that people have the right experience. It could be actually also to say, that's strange, France is used to work on the Monday and here we don't see some patterns of usage. So maybe we should decrease the power for something and so on. Or the third is maybe we should better use the resources. And this is where we see a significant opportunity because today there are a lot of resources, waiting for usage. And right now they may be sleeping because it's a holiday in France, it's a holiday in Italy and so on. So what we aim at doing is quantifying anticipating the usage and then calibrate an infrastructure. So if we look at the model, what we do is we absorb a lot of data, listening to different parts, so listening actually to a big part in the network of an IT infrastructure. And what we can do is we can predict, again, what will be the path from the left to the right, so that we could calculate, we could identify personas of usage of infrastructure. We can anticipate the number of hours of use of an applications and which applications will be used. And good news is in all what we have built lately, when we look at the anticipation that we could do, we could get an accuracy which is between 95 and 99%. So we are pretty proud about this. So if we look at where we see an opportunity, basically it's to introduce the concept of sleep mode, or actually better optimize, the infrastructure so that we don't waste resources. We don't have servers, that are running full speed and burning energy and generating CO2, footprint, because sometimes, again, I think this is the weekend, this is a holiday in Italy. And guess what, there are plenty of servers waiting for work and there is nobody to work. So basically, we have a very basic concept, which is in the very short term, what we want to be able is to right-side this infrastructure and provide a granularity, which is, for, let's say, an application that is, for instance, one of the SaaS applications that we have seen a few minutes ago is to say, okay, you know what, we could anticipate that in the next hour, in the next day, very few people will be using that application. So maybe we'll tell to Amazon, you know what, you can take it easy, reduce, the power. We don't need, the people will not be there. And we believe this is an opportunity to, of course, save on the energy, typically electric consumption, in the data center. But that could be along, all the full chain from A to Z, including the wireless networks, including the infrastructure and including a lot of things. So our step one is to work on this right sizing. And the midterm is to make it even smarter. So we are working on some very interesting technology, to create what we call a community of people that will trade, the usage. Maybe one day, we believe that people will say, when is the best time for me to run an application to watch Netflix so that I don't burn, bad capacity? So we think, of course, Netflix is not a good example, but if you think in the enterprise, maybe in the future, we'll want to say, I want to optimize the same way when you say to Waze, I want to arrive by 10 a.m., Waze will tell you, you know what, you should leave by 8:15. We believe that the same thing will happen in the digital world. When is the best time, to access that application and to do what I want to run this AI algorithm and so on. So we're working on what we call this concept of digital pooling and make it sustainable. So today we have that technology. We're involved in a certain number of pilots and so on, together with some large companies, that could be, one is an Israeli company that you should know, which is in the data center world. But also, we are working with people in the server business, Supermicro, to show that anticipating is a way to do a lot of things. We also work with some other startups that can do some very smart things. All in all, we believe that, in order to gain on energy and to gain in the digital world, it's all about anticipating the future, so that we could anticipate this sleep mode, a bit like you have it on your smartphone. And that has a lot of value on the asset optimization, on the growth of the business for many companies, because they will better use their resources and maybe at the right time and so on. And basically also by cost reductions. So today we have some done estimation, through the pilots. We believe that this 25% gain is a good objective. I think in the second generation we believe that we can go much further. So that's all. This is this is Lighten, and we want to enlighten the world by actually providing capacity to anticipate how to better use a digital infrastructure. My name is Etienne, and thank you. And we are right now, we have self-funded the whole enterprise, and we are looking for seed funding to go beyond this and to achieve our vision. Thank you to everybody.
Douze-Pois Lighten. So the Eurovision is actually almost over. Now all the presentation will be in person. I'm Yuval from Monday.com. I'm a VP programs for the company. I'm in charge of accelerating activities or incubating new activities in general. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you Planetech for organizing all of that. That's amazing. As a SaaS company, we deal with like massive production company on AWS. We started to measure our carbon emission, and we figure out that we have a lot to do. With that, I want to invite Finout to tell about their very impressive solution for monitoring and in the field of carbon. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Yeah, no. All right, so my name is Rui. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Finout. This one? Never mind. All right, so a bit different than other companies in this landscape. No, it's working, Thank you. So let's talk a bit about what's happening with the cloud space. So the data center industry has gone even higher carbon emission than the entire aviation industry. And even around 1% of the total global power consumption is being used by data centers. So it means that as an organization, one of the most significant things we can do for the environment is optimizing and managing our cloud spend. And no, stop working again. Perfect. And modern cloud environments are getting away from just the cloud provider services, right? So we're using AWS, we're using GCP, we're using Azure, and those services started to report their emission, and it's great. But modern solutions are using a lot more services than that. And when I'm running an e-commerce website, for example, and I'm clicking purchase, I'm transferring through at least 10 different services throughout my systems, and suddenly getting the cost of the entire thing and the emission of the entire thing is a lot more difficult question than what it should be. And a lot of people think that just optimizing cloud spend means that I'm gonna be better for the environment, but for many cases it's not true, because I can optimize the cloud spend and I'm just gonna hurt AWS margins, but I'm going to still impact the environment the same because I'm running the same amount of services. And there are lots of ways to save money on the cloud providers, but without actually understanding our usage and how we can reduce that, that's the only path to sustainability. So what we can do at Finout is not only show the cost of the cloud services, but also the carbon emission of each service, and try to come up with a formula to take the entire usage-based space and put it into one space. So taking all the cloud-based environment, taking all usage-based software, and put everything on one graph and show companies how they can actually be more sustainable throughout the future, and make sure that we continue to not getting out of hand with what we're utilizing with cloud spend, and that we have any chance of being net carbon neutral in at any given moment, because we're not losing touch with our business. We continue to grow in a healthy manner. We can take greener choices, and we can even move between providers if it's going to be economized and greener for everything. That's it. I'm the quickest one.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eyal Mistvalov. I'm a principal at Verizon Ventures. First of all, I would like to thank Uriel, Deborah, Monica from AWS for hosting us here, and also, of course, Monday.com. So thank you very much, and also for all the other partners. I think that it's a great privilege to be here with all of you guys today. So thank you. So Verizon Ventures, we're I would say, the smallest office for Verizon, probably worldwide. We're just 3 people here in Israel. We're scouting for new technologies that we will be able to bring into the big Verizon. Verizon is a huge telco company based in the US with more than 130,000 employees and market cap of $230 billion. So that's in a nutshell about Verizon. About us, we're looking for startups in different domains that can be relevant, for Verizon. We're mainly investing in round A's and above. And here in Israel, we made 13 investments up until today. Yeah, so that's in a very short overview about Verizon Ventures. And now I'm happy to present the next startup, Cognify. Cognifiber, sorry.
Hi, I'm Eyal Cohen, CEO, co-founder of Cognifiber, Cognition and Fiber Optics. You'll understand in a second. I want to thank the organizer and everybody here and the partners. This is a very unique opportunity. Normally, we do not show in energy relevant forms, actually more technological, computing, and you'll understand. But this is a unique start point for our company. I'm glad to have it. Yeah, it's me. So yeah, we look at AI. I'm coming from both engineering as in startups like Mellanox, iFun, etc., but also neuroscience, my PhD. And we love AI. We love how the brain works. We want AI to be as effective and energetically useful as the brain, which is just 30 watts, all our brain. Does amazing work. AI can save people's life, can help people's life, help medicine, sorry. It's me. But today it's limited by energy, heat, prices, and we want to help this. If we actually been helped by previous showing that computing, it takes a lot of energy in data center, but specifically AI, huge models are now being, new models are being made. They are more effective, but they consume huge amounts of energy. That's 85 tons per single training of a single model. That's huge. That's a car to the moon and back for you. The main parameters that we look at AI infrastructure is called TOPS per watt. That's tera operations per watt. Billions of operation for each watt we spend. That's the major parameter. And we are now on a roughly scale. You can see this one here below, between 1 and 4 billions of operation per watt. And this is far better than we've been, let's say, a decade ago, but it's not enough. If we look at the future of computation, computational world, in general ecosystem, everybody looks for verses, metaverse, dataverse, omniverse. This is for, in terms of computation, and AI is a huge, huge effort. This is going to take supercomputing to allow us to support this kind of virtual worlds to function properly. So everybody now in the like HPE, NVIDIA, and also Facebook has their own supercomputing built. And this supercomputing, they are really, really strong. This was the latest. Fujitsu was the strongest. Now you can see HPE, almost, that's almost 20 times stronger, more efficient in terms of TOPS per watt. But they didn't mention it takes 131 megawatt, a single computer. Okay, so we'll have many of these to support all the metaverses. So what do we do? How do we have AI which is sustainable in data centers? This, by the way, the HPE is 630,000 tons of CO2 every year. So that's about 300,000 cars driving all the time. So Cognifiber is part of photonic computing revolution. We want to replace some of the chips with photonic chips. These photonic chips are not yet mature, so we use fiber optics and optical communication devices in order to generate low-cost, very fast, accurate photonic systems. We were founded in 2018, accepted into Intel, had seed and Series A, LOIs, and this year we're going to have, 25 patent application. And in 2 months, we are going to have our first alpha prototype out into the market launched. Next year, our first product. We have a great team, experts in photonics, AI, hardware, software, etc. We expect a really huge differentiator from both, classic AI providers of infrastructure, but also photonics because of our unique differentiators. Just to give you an example, NVIDIA with 6.5 kilowatt for a server, we are half a kilowatt. This is the leader of photonic computing today in the United States, Live Matter. And you can see the huge differences in the speed of computing, the cost per computing, and the efficiency. That's 1,000 times better than NVIDIA, 1,000 times. So now we can start thinking about supercomputing, which is in fact sustainable. In general, we are here now. We are aiming for industrial IoT, cybersecurity, and fintech, doing mostly anomaly detection, which was mentioned here, as our first way into AI services. In the future, we are planning to have general purpose computing to support all types of AI. Yeah, we are now seeking additional $8 million as a series completion, and this will support our first product getting into the market, beta, etc., and POCs, partnership, etc., but it's less important. So we want to replace supercomputing, which are enormously energy hungry, with this. This is a photonic data center of the future. And the whole of this just consumes only 50 kilowatt instead of 100 megawatt. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, everyone. Last one. I'm Aya from Enel. We are a multinational power company based in Italy. We're the largest utility in Europe and one of the largest renewable energy players in the world. We've committed to being net zero by 2040 in the energy mix and net zero by 2050 across our scopes. So we are constantly looking for ways to decarbonize across all our both supply chains and all our services. In Israel, we don't actually have any business activities. We have an innovation hub, which I'm a part of, and we are now opening a new lab that will deal in AI, robotics, and sustainable materials for the renewable energy industry. So I welcome any startups to come and speak to me, and it is my pleasure to introduce Scream.
Hi, everyone. I have two reasons for being here today. First of all, I think what we gathered around here today is probably the most important things humankind is doing right now, saving the planet, making sure our kids will have a better world. The second reason, not necessarily in that order, is because every time I work on making the world a better place, I get points from my wife, so help me. All right, at Scream, we help our customers ask bigger questions, right? So the mission of the company and the reason why we exist is in order to enable our customers to ask the most complex queries and the most important insights for the biggest customers in the world. I'll show you a few examples later. All right, so this is our mission, ask bigger. So there's a bunch of facts of the company. We are now 170 employees. We raised a bunch of funds from a lot of funds, not from the funds here. We didn't raise from the funds here. But the mission was to enable the customers to ask bigger. So while we are doing this, I'm earning more points. We are doing a webinar in parallel to this to educate companies how to save carbon emission with using big data analytics. So the bad news is that there's going to be exponentially more data sets in the world, and there's no good solution to analyze them other than the previous presentation, that this is amazing, other than just to use a lot of computers in parallel. So this is what they do. They put zillions of computers in very large data rooms in order to let you have the picture that you just asked on the very popular application on the web, right? For some reasons you can't see it, but it's a lot of tons of carbon and energy consumption in computing and cooling, all right? And the bad news is it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Companies are competing with the insights, so they have to do it in order to lead the market. Uber is not a taxi company. Uber is using big data insights, using zillions of machines in order to optimize the right taxi driver to the right customer in the right time. It's a big data company. Google is a big data company. Amazon is a big data company. They all disrupt industries with insights using zillions of computers and thousands of engineers. So in Scream, we are a bunch of geeks that wanted to miniaturize data center. We are using GPUs, CPUs, best use cases of using computation in order to do what is done in this data room with one machine and a couple of GPUs, and we really want to use your chip. Okay, so we are working with the best designers of the best chips in the world in order to miniaturize data center. And I want to show you what it means. So customers are buying Scream software because we run much faster on much bigger data sets than the biggest companies in the world, right? So we compete with the guys of Amazon, we compete with the guys of Google, and we compete with a small company called Snowflake, right? And we compete on performance, on scale, and on price, right? So usually they buy it because they get value. They are able to ask bigger questions, more complex queries on bigger data sets. And they do it because it's cheaper, faster, much more effective. But we also consume much less energy. So this is an example that we did together with the great guys of Green Algorithms, who educated us how to do it professionally. We ran a standard high-performance data analytics query set, 20 queries on 300 terabytes, and we consume 10% of the data of the energy. We have customers that are running 10,000 queries an hour on 2 petabytes, right? And this is exponential. We didn't want to brag too much. We're just a bunch of geeks, right? But if you analyze more data, you need to have more data rooms with more racks of servers. So the more data and the more complex the queries are, the more value we bring to the world with our software, right? So we didn't mean to do that. We just wanted to miniaturize data centers, but bear with me, I want to earn points with my wife. So for the first time in our history, we have leads coming because of this, and not because of we do better, faster, more efficient, right? That we have the first lead and it's going to be a customer. So we used to sell with the 100, X100, X20, 10%. Now we added carbon emissions. So we are running much bigger data sets, much faster, on a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the energy consumption, right? So, so we think that we'll be able to help the world to be a better place a little bit, selling real value to our customers, together with making them more carbon efficient companies. Thank you much. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this community. Thank you for the opportunity. And let's make the world a better place, and talk with my wife and tell her all the good stuff.
Okay, so we're finishing up. to summarize, let's earn more points with our wives and kids and friends and with ourselves. The fact that we've done this event today is a breakthrough for the two ecosystems, the digital one and the climate one, and we need more examples like the ones that we just seen right now. To conclude, I want to thank again all of the partners, specifically Monica here from AWS and Monday for hosting us, and most importantly to the Planetech team, Gal, Tamar, Deborah, Viva, Mayan. Thank you so much for building this. This is a team effort. Looking forward to seeing all of you on Planetech World 2022, September 21st, and let's enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.